magical humans. You are here to think out loud with me. I am Natalie Peterson, casting in from my little neck of the woods in northern Colorado to you in yours, wherever and whenever that might be. This digital adventure is my solution of turning years of internal chatter, wondering, silent suffering, and physical and mental close calls into enlightening and empowering conversations with others. I would like you to meet Holly Krivo, the brains and beauty behind Soberish Uprising. This is her quest to lead women on exploring a sober life. From Holly's point of view, it's not about saying no to booze, it's about saying yes to you. After finding her own soberish life, her gifts as a natural storyteller, cheerleader, and coach kicked into high gear. And she now partners with fantastic women as they step into empowering their lives without booze. I skipped my usual opening monologue this go round in the interest of getting right to the heart of this cast and onto the shit that matters. Holly, I am thrilled to be thinking out loud with you today. I am thrilled and just super fucking excited for waking up this morning with a clear mind and on a mission to connect with a magical human like you. Please say hello.
Natalie, I need to record that and just have that in my ear every morning when I wake up, just that cheerleader. So thank you. Hello to you. Hello to your amazing listeners. And I have been looking forward to this all week. Like, what a great way to end a Friday.
Yeah. TGIF, right?
Yes.
If I put my water in a ball, I'm here. This is funny. I still drink my water. I still drink my drink from a ball jar. This used to be vodka.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
This is a massive jar of now water. Thank God, because
well, I've got
cheers to you. You've got your can of Waterloo. Cheers to Waterloo. So like I said, I just want to, I want to dive in and I noticed on your Instagram earlier this week around your post, a multi-frame post around normalizing certain things that have to do with alcohol. And that got me to thinking about alcohol, the role that it plays in our society as this glue that binds certain experiences together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it binds us together in ways that we don't really understand until we give ourselves a few beats without it. So that being said, I would love to just dive into your thoughts around like I said, the role of alcohol in our society, and kind of your perspective in how deeply embedded in our daily experience that it is.
I love it. We're like getting right into it. I love it. And it's so this thought of binding experiences together, binding humans together. And I love you said, that is, it can be true. And then I think when you step outside of it, you're like, wait, was that true? Was that really what binded it? Or was it the people? Or was it the enjoyment? Or was it the laughter? Right? Like but when you're in it, to your point, the role of alcohol in our society is everywhere. Like there is not a store you don't go to where there's some mommy wine culture, towel. It's everywhere on TV. It's everywhere you watch on media where they are a powerful woman. I was rewatching Scandal the other day and the amount of wine Olivia Pope drinks, right? And it's just like, that's what they do to wind down. And that's what you do to go to brunch. And it's so entwined but when people are like, wait, I don't drink, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? Why would you not drink? So it's almost like we have to just as a society stop and say, okay, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we really stopped and looked at this, we talk about that normalize. My biggest one is like normalize calling alcohol a drug.
Thank you.
Just normalize it, right? And like own it. Because I know so many women who would never touch, psilocybin, would never touch weed. That's a drug. It's illegal. But then every day it's like half a bottle of wine. It's like, let's like normalize. It is a drug. It is a neurotoxin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, start having those conversations and pulling back the wool a little from how we're looking at booze.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to be clear, well, actually,
Ooh, tell me.
I was judgy.
Mm.
I was
When?
judgy that first year of sobriety, maybe more, where I was so thrilled with the clarity that the drug of it, right? If, like they say, if you could put sobriety in a pill and take it, and the clarity that after you get through the mess of, unwinding your life that has been bound around it, that you start to experience this euphoria, this natural euphoria of things just being so clear, and this realization of how tied up in it you were. I was judgy. I remember thinking, you don't know what you have. Don't you know what you're doing? Oh, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I can say that now because now I've gotten to a place where this isn't about my judging. This is about the reality check of alcohol being a drug, alcohol being something that we rely on to distract us from what is in front of us. And that if we were to take an inventory of how much fucking time and money we spent focused on alcohol as a topic, where we're going to get it, how we're going to drink it, when we're going to, get the next one, we would be repulsed with ourselves if we really took a minute and looked at it.
Oh, yes. That time wasted for me is, it's easy to be like, yeah, when you drink, like you're hungover the next day, people get that, right? But for me, it was like to your point. So you wake up and the next day you're not feeling as great. And then it's like 2 and you're like, okay, well, what time can we open up a bottle of wine? Right. Or where are we going to go eat? Where can I have that glass of wine? Or what, like to your point, all this like mental or the mental math that you're trying to figure out when you can do as opposed to like spending that energy anywhere else. Like the amount of time, let alone money, but talent, even like impact, like all these things that were so important to me. And then I would be like, well, yeah, but like a glass of wine won't hurt, which was rarely one, I can share more about where I was, but like to your point, the amount and that judginess is interesting because I definitely had that piece and I had to be like, all right, chill out a little bit. Like nobody likes to be judged. You don't like to be judged. But now I'm to the point, it's like I have this, and I love the sobriety. I'm like, I have this huge, big secret, and it's so great. And I just want you to know about it. And I want you to know about it. And I want you to try it. And I promise this will help you with your anxiety. I promise this will help you with not sleep. Like, please, like, I have something to help you. Like, try it. I want this for you.
Yeah. I think the judgment came from my seeing if judgment is a reflection of ourselves, right? It's a mirror that I was seeing my own lack of awareness. I was so I will speak on my own behalf. I was so unaware of really. Actually, that's not even true. I can't. You're like my truth serum. I can't lie to you, Holly.
Don't lie to me. I'm here to.
Don't lie to me. Like,
don't lie to me.
I knew I was a hot mess. I did. But then if I drank enough, I got over it. I didn't care. So I knew I was a hot mess if I was too sober, right?
Yeah.
If I got drunk enough, I could give a shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, like all judgment is self-judgment, right? When I find myself judging somebody for something, I'm like, oh, what's that about? What is it about me that I'm like really judging? And yeah, that like self-sabotage, right? I was like, I was just self-sabotaging myself every fucking night or 6 nights out of the week, or if I was doing really good, only 4 nights.
Right.
And it's insidious.
It is. Tell me about you as a drinker.
Yeah.
The persona that you wore.
the persona, I was always the drinker. It's, I was always the one who would suggest a happy hour, have wine at dinner, let's do brunch, let's do happy hour, all these things. And it was never, and I'm always really clear to say this, like, I don't think I did not have a societal definition of a drinking problem, but I was drinking a lot more than I was drinking enough that it was stopping me from living the life I wanted to live. Right. So, I think towards the end, it was like 1 or 2 glasses of wine a night. Weekends were a little more. For Sunday starting, let's, making early dinner, starting early. I classify myself as like a heavy drinker, which is like not that much. It's 8 drinks a week, which was really easy to do. And I don't think a lot of people realize that's considered a heavy drinker, right? Because it's kind of normal. Again, I was on paper, things were going well. We were moving overseas. I had a good job. I was getting promoted, like thriving social life. But it was like every time I would drink, I'd be like, this isn't it. And I always like talk about it. Felt like I would wake up with like a heavy backpack, like wake up just like groggy. And after waking up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, heart racing, beating the shit out of myself. Like, why'd you do that? You knew you weren't going to. Now you're not going to want to go to the gym. Now you're not going to want to do this. And then that afternoon, to your point, like it helps it a little. And also you're like, I don't want to deal with it. And it was just this vicious cycle. And I'm always really clear because people are like, well, you didn't have a drinking problem. And I was like, but it was causing a problem in my life. So I did, I'm really like so passionate. You don't have to be drinking vodka out of your big glass at 6 in the morning to like want to change your relationship. And so, I'd probably started drinking at 19, 20 consistently till 41. And then September 13th is when I kind of was just like, girl, like cut the shit. Like you can't want to get out and like want to change the world and coach and do all these world changing things. And then just be like, sure. I'll just like waste my time and energy with like drinks every night.
Yeah. I love that you have on your website in big bold, like you can't want to totally turn the world, like impact the world and do it when you're cutting corners, what felt like these are my words.
Yeah.
When you're cutting your own corners, right? And, or not as sharp as you need to be, or honest and real as you need to be to go impact the world at the level that you want to. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like, I was, impacting the world can be volunteering. It can be raising amazing humans, right? Like we all have a way, it's a natural tendency to like impact the world in a good way, right? So this isn't, everybody has that in them. And it was like, every day I was just like working against myself. I was just making everything so much harder. And like you said, those shortcuts, and it's these like micro-abandonments that I would do all the time. And it just erodes your confidence and increases your anxiety, like all these things of like, I keep promises to Natalie. I keep promises to my wife. I keep promises to everybody. And then every day I'm just like, tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow. And it was just like that lack of integrity got to the point where I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Micro-abandonments. That's enormous. As tiny as they are, like they are, I mean, the concept, gosh, that resonates with me because I like in the shadow work that I have taken on over the last many years, that has been one of the heaviest lifts, was going back into my past and to the very specific points where I had abandoned myself, where I had cut the corner, cut myself short, broken my own promise, left my body and said, I'll see you on the other side of this.
And he's like, I'll see you, and it's you, right? You're just like, peace, Natalie, figure it out. See you later. Like like it's just.
And going back and actually, I mean, quite literally through meditation, going back and wrapping my arms around that, Natalie, and saying, I am so sorry. You didn't deserve that. Because that, I mean, if you think about like what you're saying, I keep promises to my friends, my best friends, my partner, my son, my children. The abuse that I serve myself is I would never do. I wouldn't do that to the people that I love. And yet I do it to myself on a regular basis. And I can't say that I still don't abuse myself. I can't say that.
Yeah.
I've taken alcohol out of the equation. I still have a lot of work to do on the self, the relationship with self. That's probably a whole nother cast to
Like,
dive into.
noted. That's a whole other thing. Well, thank you for sharing that, because it is something that's like, I no longer abandon myself with alcohol, right? Or that decision. But to your point, like I still have moments, and for me, it's a lot of like self-doubt or judgment or
Mhm.
all that. Like it's always like inner shit talking most of the
Yep.
time. That's typically where that abandonment comes from. But typically when I was drinking, it either escalated it, or it was like, oh, I just felt that way because I was drinking. And now I'm like really clear. I'm like, oh, that's me. It's
Mhm.
not booze that's playing effect in that. So it does, to your point, like you're always healing, right? So, but it's at this point, I know it's not booze. Booze isn't getting in the way of that. So it's like real clear that that's like me and me needing to figure that out,
Yep.
which is empowering.
Yeah.
You're like, I can do this now.
Mhm. Did you, so you talked about societal definition of alcoholic
Mhm.
and we all kind of we dance around the concept of addiction and having a problem and
Mhm.
these words that we, I mean, my grandfather he was always so funny. He was not an alcoholic according to him because all he had was a daily martini. That did
Mm.
not make him an alcoholic. But man, if he didn't get his daily martini at, the 5:05 hour
Yeah.
specifically made, right? I was like, but now,
Yeah.
and then was quick to judge both my parents, who were both raging alcoholics. That's an alcoholic,
Mm.
that, in his
Yeah.
definition, right?
Yeah.
So, thinking about just definitions and like from your own, so this concept of heavy drinker being 8 drinks a week and someone saying, shit, that's me,
Mm.
but I don't have a problem. I don't subscribe to that way. Like, there's this messiness of deciding that you're done with alcohol, even though you don't think you have. I guess the way that you've put it is that it's not necessarily societally defined as it is. I see it as a problem. I have a relationship with myself that's clear enough that says it doesn't matter what society is saying. I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm.
I just talked myself into my own question, but your thoughts around
Yeah.
um, how we decide, more on how we decide there's a problem. Things aren't
Mm.
going right. We're not
Yeah.
doing, like, fill in more of the blank for me.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And it's so funny. So my brother got sober in February of 2020. So right before COVID hit. And then I started my I call it my soberish journey, because I do have drinks rarely. And I started mine like September of 2021. And I remember like asking him, I'm like, Brent, do you think I have a drinking problem? Do you think I'm drinking too much? When and he was like, Holly, people who don't have a drinking problem don't think they have a drinking problem. Like if you're questioning it, there's something there, right? And so I think it's like safe to explore, like my mom maybe has a glass of wine once a year. She never thinks she's over drinking, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like I heard that whisper of like, girl, it's enough. It's enough. I knew I was waking up hungover. Like I knew I wasn't like having the energy. I knew I was groggy. And so that's when I was like, oh, what's the common denominator and all these things that I don't like how my life is going? Oh, it's booze. Right. And so it's really personal, I think. And and that's why I'm also like, it's also personal what your solution looks like, right? If I thought I had to go to AA meetings the rest of my life, I would not be here today having this conversation.
Yeah.
I'd probably still be drinking the way I was.
Yeah.
Like, I just was like, that's not for me. And no, that sounds judgment of it, but it was just like, that's
Yeah.
not I don't consider myself an addict. I don't consider myself an alcoholic. And I would never want to say I was and take away from people who go through so much to maintain their sobriety because it's beautiful. But it's like if you're kind of, you're like, well, I drink 8, 9 drinks a week and I don't have a problem. And it's like, well, what is your problem? Okay, well, I'm not sleeping well. I'm not present with my kids. I'm really anxious the next day. And all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, like what else? What maybe is the red line through that? Could it be booze? Like, could it maybe support some of those things? Because I think so many people, and again, I'm not a mom, but I have a lot of mom friends. It's like part of that culture, right? It's like the one thing you can do to treat yourself at the end of the day when you're stuck at home. It's like a novelty. It's all these things. And so you need it as opposed to thinking, oh, wait, is that causing all the things I don't want in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm like so passionate as I'm like, just try it and see if it works. Like, if you're curious, just try not drinking for 75, 80, 90 days. Booze will always be there when you're done. If you decide to go back, you can go to the store, try it and see if it does start to relieve. And again, it doesn't make your life perfect. I think you and I know that it doesn't make it perfect, but it does make it a lot more manageable than this like constant edge of booze impact. I don't even know if that answered your question.
It does, and it of course leads to more. Because the booze, there's such a fear, I'll speak for myself,
Yeah.
of if I stop drinking, I'm going to have to face some things about myself that I don't necessarily like. And they're mine. They're not necessarily, that if I, because I've felt the same kind of, well, I've gotten feedback from folks just even in a broader sense of healing, like shadow work and any of this kind of, self actualization and like, yeah, that's great. Good for you. I'm busy. I don't have time to dive into the woo woo kind of stuff. And that to me, there's a parallel along the same lines with drinking, where it's like, I really don't want to know what my gut actually does know. I just don't want to hear it. Right. Like, I don't want to, there's so much, I think, that I don't want to be with myself. I don't want to have a quiet brain where I have to think about, where I actually have to think these thoughts. If I drink enough, it takes, it at least puts them at bay and gives me a reprieve from things. Being with yourself is massive. And I don't know that I wasn't taught. I mean, my parents were alcoholics. They certainly didn't teach me how to have a conversation with myself, how to take care of myself, how to err on my own side, right? Which kind of breaks my heart in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, like nobody taught you to like Natalie's like your numero uno not obligation, responsibility, who you take care of, like how do you deal with like these uncomfortable emotions like anger, jealousy, regret, guilt, shame, all those things that so often we use substances or other calming activities for.
Distractions.
Right. It's a distraction. So that makes, for you, because I'm curious for you, how did you start doing that? Or maybe when did you realize that like you needed to take care of you?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm much better at it.
Mm.
I'm much better at it.
Yeah.
But I, candidly, rough patches where I'm like, and it's never like going backwards. I feel like there's not a slide. It's just rough patch for, like you're in the middle of it, like you're sitting in your own shit and you're like, getting to the same place, almost there's a similar place of I'm tired of my own shit. There just doesn't happen to be alcohol with, up in it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what did you say that just like, I can't remember. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I mean, to your point, like there's still now it's just like you having like
Now it's
having
you.
to deal with
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's what it was. As people like aren't ready to see themselves, they don't want to, it's like coping with alcohol works until it doesn't work anymore. And then maybe that's your time, right? Because sometimes people are like, do you regret not doing this earlier? And I was like, if I was ready, I would have done it earlier.
Right.
For whatever reason, I just wasn't at that moment. And then till one day I was just like, cut the shit. Like I was almost like, I was mad at myself. Like, what are you doing? Right.
Mhm.
And so I think for sometimes people are like, okay, you may not be ready to deal with what you've got. Like, is that pain and that drinking, is that so bad you don't want to see what else could be out there to explore that may not be as terrible, right? The pain of
Yeah.
staying, is it worse than the pain of going? Like,
Mhm.
I don't, that's a very personal decision for people and everyone has different traumas and there's, it's not an easy answer, but you may not be ready yet.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
may not, nobody can force you to do it.
And you're now kind of dabbling in what I would imagine is the magic that you bring to as a coach and as a mentor
Mhm.
to women that are curious, uh,
Mhm.
that these are the types of questions that you dance with
Yeah.
when you're without revealing the internal workings of
No, no,
what
no.
it. But tell me what it's like. Tell me what a coaching experience with you is like.
Mm, love it. Yeah. So I think, I love this idea, because to me, when I think of somebody who's sober curious, it's all like up in your head, right? Curiosity to me is like, I'm going to research, I'm going to think about it. Where it's like, let's go from sober curious to like, my whole thing is sober-ish, right? Like, let's go for more sobriety than not, right? Like, let's actually
Mhm.
put it into action. So again, we always commit 70 days, no drinking, because I am a firm believer you have to get all out of your system, right? And we can do anything for 70 days. I work with moms, you've birthed babies, like you'll be fine. You've
Right.
raised humans, you've done a lot, you've done a lot of hard things. We've all done harder things, right? So it's that. And then it's starting to change your beliefs about who you are as a woman. Like, what are your fears of not drinking? What are the stories you have told yourself that have kept you stuck in this place, right? Who is that vision of Natalie that she wants to be? And can she be that person and still drink at the rate she's at? Okay, well, now we have some decisions to make, right? And
Mhm.
it's really important for me to like, they may go on and decide, hey, I'm never going to drink again. I'm going to cut back substantially, or like, I'm going to go back to my old ways, but now I know new things, right? So it really is about like, the stories we've told ourselves, the beliefs we have, like, how do we get a clean slate of like, okay, now that I'm this woman in my 40s and I want these things, like, what are my new beliefs? Like, what are the new, like, what do I need to go back and release a lot of shame and guilt about?
Yeah.
What are the things that I want for my life? And then like, how do I regulate my nervous system to get them? Right. So it's like a full body thing, but it's so much. And I think what's worked for me and the women I work with is like, and again, I'm not for everybody, right? There are people that need more treatments. I'm always really clear on that, right? It's not for everybody, but for these women that are like, I think I want something more, but the thought of quitting forever is really scary. And I don't even know if I want to quit. Like, okay, well, let's like give it a try and let's try and become a woman who doesn't need booze every day, right? Who isn't just like, oh, let's go boozy brunch. Like, it's become such a thing that you're like, you're better than that. Come on. Like,
Mhm.
you're a brilliant, world changing, human creating woman. Like, you don't need wine. Right. So it's kind of stepping into that new identity.
Yeah.
And then you get to decide what that version looks like. I can't decide for you. I can support you. I can pull the questions out. I can pull the insights, give you tools to work through that. But I just, like you said, there's like this gift of like that sobriety pill. Like you just feel so good. Like it feels better than any drink. And you're like, I promise if you would try it, like you'll love it. Like it's a sobriety pusher instead of a drug pusher.
Right. Totally. It totally is. I was just having coffee earlier today with a friend, and the topic wasn't drinking, but it was money. And
Mm,
the the way that she framed it up was what's the rule that you're going to have to break in order to reach that level of
mm,
abundance? Because there's these concepts
interesting.
that in this still playing in this sandbox of money that
Yeah.
you never uh take your 401k. You don't
Yeah.
distribute that's a rule. Your grandfather taught you that.
Yeah.
That's something so what rules are you going to have to break in
Mhm.
order to achieve? And they may be rules that are are your own. They're other people. A lot of them, to her point, these are people that are gone from your
Yeah.
life, that are
And you're
they've
living
passed
by
away.
them.
And I'm
Yeah.
living they're not even here to
Yeah.
to wrap you upside the head with a yardstick if you do break a rule, right?
Right.
um and so to then take it to into the drinking realm, well, I can't go out
Mm.
without drinking. I can't go to a concert and not drink. Oh my God, it's fantastic. I went to Red Rocks to go
Oh, yeah.
see the Dave Matthews Band,
Mm.
not Dave Matthews, Blues Traveler. I get them all
Okay.
mixed up. We saw Blues Traveler at Red Rocks for the 4th of July. It was fantastic. It
I
was
love it.
cool. I remember everything.
Yeah. And you got to wake up the next morning, go do whatever you wanted.
It was
Yeah.
great.
Well, and I think people may be listening and they're like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, I don't play by anybody's rules but myself. And and you're like, no, 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 no. We all pick up stuff as we go, right? Like from when we're little, we have money issues, we've got sex issues, we've got response,
Mhm.
all these things that you pick up from beliefs. And you're like, do I believe that anymore? Do I
Mhm.
want to believe that? And maybe I believed it 5 years ago and I don't. And that's great, right? There's no attachment, and to your point is it's like, how are you going to know if you don't try it? My brother has been one of my biggest inspirations in this journey. And I remember we were going somewhere and I was like, I've never gone on a trip and not drank. Like
Mhm.
I've just never traveled and not like, because we love to go eat out and go stuff. And he was like, well, how do you know it's going to be miserable? You've like never done it. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
son of a, oh, like, God, you're so right. But it was like one of those things like, how do you, and that's also like, try a concert sober, right? You can go to the next one and drink, right? Like, it's like like, play with it a little when you're in a privileged position to be able to do. Not everybody is able to, but like try it out.
Yeah.
See if you like it. You may be like, oh my gosh, going to a wedding and like I'm actually more fun when I'm sober than when I was drinking because I'm not like a little out of it and then self-conscious. You're like, wow, that was cool. Like, try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that a
There's
story I no longer believe in?
this finality of,
Yes.
it's forever. I don't think I can survive it. And it's like, just try it. Give it a
Yeah.
shot.
Just chill out a little bit. Let's just like try it a little bit.
Yeah. And I would imagine you've got a podcast as
Mhm.
well. And I would imagine that the stories you hear and the sober journeys are incredible. And
Mhm.
does it help guide you in your own commitment to soberish? Is this part of your own medicine, this soberish
It is.
movement that you're on?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question. It is because I see, people that are still go to AA every day on what their journey is. There's others that are like, hey, I've cut down 75% and this is how my life has changed. So it really helps me step into this place of like, let's share more of those stories so that people can be like,
Yeah.
hey, maybe I can do that. Maybe I don't have to be this extreme or that extreme. And so it is for me. And it's like, oh, wow, there's so many ways this can look, right?
Yeah.
Like Natalie is maybe completely sober and that works for her, but so and so is
Yeah.
like, doesn't drink, but like uses psilocybin or doesn't, or maybe has one glass of wine a week and it works for them. It's like,
Right.
it's a beautiful way, but also just being really intentional about like, what are you doing? Like, how are you using it? Because it is a drug. And like, we need to talk more about that because it's like, it's a very socially accepted drug, but it is a drug that will, oh, kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. It will.
But that doesn't like go well on a tea towel. That doesn't sell well on a tea towel.
This is your housewarming gift. I bought you this glorious $50 bottle of wine along with this
Yeah.
absolutely down to earth, in your face tea towel.
It's like,
This could kill you.
make good choices, people.
Make good choices.
And it is, and for me, it like gives me an empowerment to step more boldly because people like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I love what you're doing. You know, it's changed conversations with some of my like closer friends. And so I think and I love the people that come on, and you're one of my guests I'll have on that's going to come on probably a couple weeks, but like that are so bold about their story, right? Like I don't know, I don't want to speak for anybody. There may be some, I don't know I don't know how much shame is there, but like enough that you're like, I'm going to be vulnerable enough to share this because somebody out there may resonate and this may drive them to do something about it. And that's beautiful. Like it's I mean, that's why we're all here, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why you probably have this podcast, right? You're a little piece of the world that's giving back.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, it's medicine for my own soul to connect with fantastic humans. And yeah.
And I think what's really interesting is it's like no matter how bad the drinking was, somebody was in rehab 3 times to somebody else who's like, it was just a little too much. Like every single person was like, I knew I deserved better.
Mm,
I knew I deserved better. I knew what I was doing wasn't who I wanted to be.
yeah.
Like every single person.
Yeah. I want to give you an opportunity so folks are sober curious. They want to understand where they might sit with alcohol and their own relationship with it. Is this something, we find you online? Like, how do people experience you? How do people get in touch? Talk to me about what first steps are when they first come online with you.
Yeah, no, thank you. You know, a lot of it, I want to make sure we're a good fit. I want to make sure that, you know, there's so much around it, like this energetically that we're a good fit to work together. Also making sure that I am the right person for where your drinking is. You know, I'm not a licensed medical professional. I'm a certified coach, but those are two totally different things. So making sure that like, I'm going to be the support you need. And if not, I have resources to get you kind of the support that you do need. We do kind of a complimentary session. Hey, how's this working? A little bit, you know, I find out more about why you're wanting to change, what you've been doing, mini coaching session-ish. And then I have a 12-week program that I run individuals. And I'm also launching a group program in beginning of September called the Soberish Experiment. So 12 weeks, it's part content, part teaching, and then also part coaching. Which is really great because it's also, you know, as you know, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So much of what we uncover our beliefs around drinking are like, oh my God, that's how I am in my relationship. So, you know, it's
light bulb.
It's all connected. And so it's, you know, my favorite. And then also, you know, after that, I sometimes work with clients that they're like, cool, now that I've like have this clarity, I want to do X, Y, Z. And that's also really exciting of like, okay, now we're not even really focused on the drinking, but like now that you have this capacity, now what do we get to do? So yeah, I do one-on-one and then group at this time.
Yeah.
And the group's great too, right? Because you're like, oh my God, Natalie's just like me. I'm not alone. There's nothing wrong with me.
Right. Right. I have this vision of you, you know, we take our backpack off and the lightness that we experience allows us to, this new capacity, the space that we can step into can be, pretty fantastic. So soberishuprising.com.
Yes.
And then you're very active on social media. I adore your Instagram feed. Soberish Holly Krivo is the handle. And then Facebook is Holly Krivo. And it's KRIV as in Victor O. And I'll put all of this in the show notes, darlings. And your podcast is also called Soberish Uprising.
Correct. Yes.
And with fantastic stories and similar to mine, very raw and relatable. So well, I'm really I am. I believe that the universe puts folks into our lives, as we need them. And I am extremely happy that, our own paths crossed, and that, remind me where you're even piping in from.
Houston, Texas.
That's right, Houston. So the idea that we can be in these different parts of the world and experience one another it's pretty stinking cool.
That's
Yeah.
cool, because I was like thinking, we've been talking about going to Colorado. I was like, oh, well, then I'll just find for Natalie and we'll go grab a mocktail somewhere or coffee or
Absolutely.
something.
A Waterloo on me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for having me think out loud with you. And I love the conversations you bring. And this is your gift. You're a natural storyteller. I know that when I had you on my podcast, I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. So you bring so much energy and light to your show. So thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. And truly thank you for what you're doing for people. I think that there's a door that opens when we do think about ourselves, and whether we stick a toe through the door and, or we step right through it, that, erring on our own, in our own favor, and putting ourselves first, man, it can be uncomfortable, and getting there, is a journey that takes a lot of work, but gosh, it's beautiful. And so thank you for helping walk with people towards that. That's incredible of you. Yeah.
It's like the biggest honor to be able to do that. And I'm so incredibly, I'm grateful for a lot of things, but this journey for me personally, finding that freedom from alcohol is like a top 5 gratitude of my lifetime. So to be able to share that and hopefully get other people kind of like curious and action oriented is just, I'm so honored to be able to do the work that I do.
You're right where you need to be, sister.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the
Good
support.
stuff. Thank you. And thanks, folks, for listening and thinking out loud with me today, and with today's guest, Holly Krivo, Soberish Uprising. Given how many choices we all have with our time and how we spend it, it really, truly is an honor that you've listened in. And until we visit again, I hope that you'll go live with love and with intention, a little bit of sass. And please, please, please don't let anyone fuck with your flow. Big hugs, big love. Bye, friends.